I decided to make a fun presentation because I think I'm pretty fun, even though I'm suited and booted. Before we started, I wanted to give you a little background on me. As she said, I've worked with many different organizations professionally, and I left working in public health to do this kind of work full time. I published a book, and I write a blog for African American LGBT people. Okay. And so I'm really big on narratives, and so I wanted to do an exercise. Can you bring up the I am from inclusion exercise? Oh, you can't? It unexpectedly. While we're waiting, how are y'all doing today, though? Because I'm new here. I'm doing great. There we go. So this is a fun little exercise that I got from my mentor in San Francisco with the Pacific Educational Group. We're going to play just a little game. Y'all don't have to move for once. But it's called the I am from inclusion exercise. So how we're going to do it is we'll fill in all of these blanks. If you scroll down a little bit for me. Thank you so much. We're going to fill in all of these blanks, and we're going to put our city at the end. And it'll give me an idea of some of the people that we have here, without y'all telling me what y'all do professionally. So I'll go first just so you can understand, because I know this is kind of like, he's coming right out doing some crazy stuff. So mine says, I am from Kermit the Frog, my stuffed animal, swing, scooter, don't let you bring your reputation home before your body. Pecan pie, website, Texas City. Does that make sense?
No.
No, but it makes complete sense to me, right? So I just want you to fill in the blanks of these boxes.
We fill those in
ourselves. And so I want somebody to volunteer to stand up, fill in the blank, and tell me where you're from. Or do I have to choose people because we're not warmed up yet? You have a pretty smile, so you do it for me.
Let's see here. I am from, this is on the spot here, a stuffed frog, clubhouse made by my dad, Rissa, good grief, maybe? I'm not sure. Let's see. Broccoli cheese casserole. New York City.
Perfect. Give a round of applause.
Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome. Now, of course, since you. Come on, Mr. Fred. I am from.
Oh, so I'm supposed to answer those questions?
Yes.
Like sort of. Let's never my pony spoke. Favorite outdoor item was also my pony.
Right.
Smoke.
Nickname family called me was Teddy. Most memorable memory say. I can't say some of them. See, I was not ready for this. Most memorable family saying is, "You kids are driving me crazy." These are dishes that we call family gatherings or heritage. Pork and sauerkraut. Places that keep or affect your memories. Columbus, Ohio.
Perfect. So give them a round of applause. To get a feel of a couple people around here, I was going to pass it out, but we're all about, recycling, right? So you can go back to the presentation. because I think it's so important in spaces like this, especially in much needed facilities and community centers like this, to understand some of the people that you're not familiar with and the narratives of those people, right? I know that in many different fields of work, especially around social services, public health, a lot of times we hear African American LGBT being one of the most affected and communities with the most health disparities, but a lot of times we haven't really got a chance to really know them on a very general level on their narratives. You can click next for me. So I'm just thankful that I have the opportunity in front of you guys to present some of these narratives, to talk about these narratives in depth with you guys, and hopefully give you a better and deeper understanding of maybe some of the things that the African American LGBT community needs from social services. Now, I want to make sure I'm clear that I'm not coming from a place of y'all are not doing the work, right? Y'all are definitely doing the work. We're very appreciative of the work that you guys do. But, as we all know, we can all do a little bit more, right? So, I want to, you can go to the next slide. Who am I? I kind of introduced myself, click right here. I'm fancy. I'm fancy. I am, so I am a millennial. I'm a young boy, public health professional, blogger. My blog is The Normal Anomaly, dedicated to African American LGBT people. Published a book called Practice Boy. It's a fictional book about a young man figuring out the difference in sex and sexuality. He's also African American and LGBT. And I also write for Huffington Post, Ethnics Magazine. I've written for Outsmart Magazine and a couple other magazines. So that's my space, but I wasn't always this person, right? Even now, talking in front of you, I kind of get a little nervous talking about this person because I come from a place that wasn't always pretty. You can go to the next piece. Click right there for me. So me, this is who I see myself as, right? To become somebody different, but this is who I see myself as. I see myself in 2004 being molested by my teacher, of who I was in a relationship with in 10th grade, and him resigning and being outed by the school. I see myself as homeless in 2006 because coming out as a black gay male in Texas City, Texas is unacceptable, and you cannot live with your parents. I see myself in 2008 beginning to get into prostitution, because what else do you do when you're not in college? You're kicked out of your home. You barely graduate, even though you were number 2 in your class in 11th grade. What do you do, right? And so in 2010, I got my first STI of 7. In 2011, I was in a relationship, but of course, who knows how to love after all of that? And I beat my boyfriend. Not happy about that. I'm not saying that it's okay, but it was a very real part of my narrative. And in 2012, my lovely mom, who kicked me out and ended up being my best friend in 2011, passed away. It wasn't until 2014 that I actually sought after my first mental health report. So about a decade went by with a bunch of trauma that then brought me actually to Monroe Center. If you would click that again, I'm not the only one, obviously, right? Just a couple more. 31-year-old black trans woman, we'll call her Claire, good friend of mine. She was outed as gay by a 21-year-old partner. Now, mind you, she already felt like she was a woman, was already taking hormones, but she was outed as gay in school. In 2005, she dropped out of school. She got into prostitution with me. We were prostitution partners. In 2009, she decided that she wanted to become a woman full-time. And in 2011, she had a dual HIV and AIDS diagnosis. 2013, she was in Atlanta. She was stabbed by one of her clients and left for dead. And even after living for 2 years, she did not seek mental health or get into care. Fortunately, she's virally suppressed now, and she sees her counselor every other week. But yeah, so 12 years for her after all that trauma. click again. Awesome. So now we're going up. This is my mentor. These are the people that I'm around. 40-year-old bisexual male, came out as openly bisexual in '96. His HIV diagnosis was in 2000. AIDS diagnosis was 2005. Everything seemed to change. He got his undergraduate degree in 2008, graduate degree in 2010, and then he got a DWI because he was drinking and fell asleep at the right there at the circle where Montrose and Main Street meet. He fell asleep at that intersection, and the UT cops picked him up, took him downtown, and he had to pay $10,000 and be on probation for a year. He had a counseling degree. Of course, that was gone. And so in 2012, he became homeless, and he sought mental health counseling in 2015. And then this is the last one. This is my mentor. She's a 61-year-old black lesbian. She had an interesting story. She went to jail in '96. She came out both from jail and sexuality in 2000. She rededicated her life to Christianity in 2005, which leads up to 2008. She ends up marrying a male, because that's what she was told she was supposed to do. 2013, she was brutally beaten by that male. And in 2016, she got engaged to a woman, and she decided because of that engagement and to make that relationship work, she had to seek mental health. So she's 61, and she went to her first counseling session in February. So these are the stories that I'm around every single day, right? These are the things that make me, even right now, emotional to come into spaces and be able to give you guys this information and a snapshot into the community that so desperately needs you all, right? You can go to the next slide. So now you hear the stories. What are the facts, right? What are the facts about this community? Both black and LGBT, because we can't let go of either one of them, a lot of us, right? Now, I may have a little bit of masculine privilege, even though I think I'm pussy. But at the same time, it's a lot of us, for a lot of my community, we can't let go of the black or the LGBT, right? And so, what are the facts? First of all, if you search anything on Google and say black gay men, what you'll find is that top one. 1 in 2 black MSM will contract HIV. Not only is it a sad projection, it's a sad thing that now I think our community believes that's about all we have, right? Blacks are 2.5 times more likely to be killed by police. Now I'm not promoting anything, but what I am saying is that's true. Actually, just for reference, white people are killed more, but black people have more chance, right? LGBT and homophobic regions live 12 years less than in open-minded communities. I think that's important because we come from very closed-minded communities in most cases. So, and there's an estimated 1 in 12 trans will be murdered compared to 1 in 18,000 for the average person. That's scary because I've had 3 friends across the United States be killed in the last 6 months that were black trans women. And LGBT people are twice as likely as black people, which are the 4th likely to have a hate crime committed to them. The 2nd is Jewish, and the 3rd is Muslim. So every other demographic is under us, but LGBT and black, as black LGBT, we're 1 in 4. So those are the facts. I know right now this is heavy. I'm coming to something happier. You can come. So more. You can keep going. So I don't like to come from a victim standpoint in this situation. I think that I'm coming to a place where I know you guys to be very progressive. I've sought your services. I do events here. I'm very grateful for this space. And so I want to make sure I come and I talk about what actually happens in our culture that we need you for versus what happens in society to us, right? And 2 of those things are internalized homophobia for us, right? Acceptance of societal anti-gay attitudes towards oneself. homonegativity, right? Leading to internalized conflict, devaluation of oneself, lack of concern for health and well-being, both mental and holistic health in general. Negative feelings about your own sexuality, stress, and shame of HIV status and or getting HIV tested, right? So that's one, and I'll come back to that, but you can go to the next slide. And stigma. Stigma is huge in most communities, most LGBT communities, but since we're specifically talking about the African American, it creates guilt and withdrawal and fear and self-harm and loss of self-worth, denial, shame, isolation, and deceit. So a lot of times what I found in these situations is because of these main two things, what we have is a lot of people having riskier sexual activity, right? Because since I'm not comfortable with my sexuality, my sex changes, right? And I'm more willing to risk myself because all I am is 1 and 2 possibility of getting HIV. You can go to the next one. So, I know that you guys have all kinds of services to support our community. I want to ask the question, why don't you think that we take advantage? Because I don't think that we take advantage. I know we don't take advantage. So, anybody have thoughts on why we don't take advantage of the services?
Not aware of the services.
Tell me more about that.
Well, we know we're the Monthly Center, we know a lot of times. We may think that people will seek us out or will come from whatever part of the town or the county they live in. I know when doing outreach, we have to go to the communities. And if we're not a member of that community, find gatekeepers, help us to engage with other people.
Absolutely.
Yes, along the same lines, a lot of people in the black community, they're bisexual, whatever, they're not out. And so when you say Montrose Center, then their families will automatically know that they're going to automatically think that they're gay, and sometimes they're not even out yet. So it's just that.
Absolutely. Anybody else?
I know we've gotten feedback from consumers in the past, and also I know there's research behind, like, if you get over the stigma of mental health treatment and you actually come in the door, if you don't see therapists or professionals that are providing the treatment that look like you, it can make you not feel as comfortable or as safe. And so I know we've gotten that feedback before, so kind of not having a lot of diversity.
Good point, good point. One more? You don't have one more?
Maybe denial?
Denial. Tell me more about that.
Especially mental health. A lot of people think, I don't need help. I'm okay, especially in the black community. Mental health is seen as you just being weak. You can, you don't need that.
I'm not crazy.
Yeah. So.
I love that. I love that. So on the next slide, I have a couple reasons why we have failed. Okay, the first one, medical mistrust. I don't have to give you guys a history lesson. We've had many instances where, as African Americans, we have been treated very interesting in medical situations. Not necessarily in mental health, but I think it travels with us, right? On top of the fact that it's very uncomfortable to come in spaces and to not be approached in culturally relevant ways, right? It's very uncomfortable for a trans woman to come into a space and still have to question like how to appropriate who she's talking to, especially if they don't look like that person potentially, right? I am not crazy. Y'all definitely said that one. That's it, that denial piece, right? We were taught from very, very young that mental health is for crazy people, and that if you take them pills, it can make you crazier. And so we saw a lot of people walking around, probably, now that I look back at it, they probably were on drugs, but we're thinking that, you know, they're crazy because they took them pills. So I'm not crazy. I don't need to seek any type of social services. Socioeconomic status. So we're going to get to our hierarchy of needs, loosely based on Maslow's, but the issue is with the socioeconomic status, like, it's very difficult, even if you do make money, you do have a job, you are working to pay $75 or $100, right, for a counseling session. Like, that's a whole weekend of partying, which is your mental health in a lot of chances, right? So, or for me, 2 hours, but yeah, but my point is, like, that's a lot to think about. And I understand there are different grants and things, but if we don't know, then we can't come, right? And ain't nothing wrong with you. Kind of goes hand in hand with I am not crazy. Ain't nothing wrong with you. I was really, really smart, but I always wrote things like mixed up. And my mama would not get me tested for dyslexia for like forever. Because she said, ain't nothing wrong with you, you still making A's. Something's wrong with me, get something to help me. So all of these things play a part outside of what you guys talked about, of us not coming to this space. And I think socioeconomic status is really high on that list. You can go to the next. You probably can go to. Okay. So I wanted to look at our priorities, kind of like in a hierarchy. I love Maslow's, so I wanted to fill some things in with what we look at in terms of where we are. Our very basic needs. Right now, I would probably be considered couch surfing. I'm not really couch surfing, but sometimes it feels like it. I moved to a garage apartment when I quit my job and started doing this, and money didn't pick up for some time. So I was sitting in that garage apartment for forever, and I was really, really depressed. And the counselor that I had been seeing for 2 years, I could no longer afford, I no longer had insurance, but I wasn't considering that. I was trying to find some money. And I almost went back to prostitution because even though I had made this decision to do this, it was very difficult to find income doing the work that I love to do, right? And then after that, I just have to freaking worry about staying alive. You know, I got a car, I got a place to stay, I got a little money in my pocket, I can put on a suit. But if I drive down the street, I am legitimately fearful of a police driving behind me. I got good insurance. My car's not like a hood car, and I drive down the street in a suit. Now, what y'all don't know is I have sleeves going all the way up my arms, and so if I'm driving with, like, you know, in my club clothes, feeling, you know, thick, sexy and stuff, what happens is I get really, really nervous if somebody's behind me, right? And then family relationships, sense of belonging. I lost my grandma, my grandpa, and my mother within 6 months. Mind you, I was kicked out the house in 2006, so I didn't even have a relationship for 6 years with them, and had to figure out how to do all of that. And then I finally get a relationship, they die, and so I'm trying to figure out, like, how am I going to find love? And then I told y'all about my intimate partner violence. I just opened all up at the beginning to y'all. And so stuff like that, now I have to, like, rebuild who I am in terms of love, because I don't know if I ever figured it out, right? So that's my next need. And then mental health and counseling, potentially, right? Because I believe self-actualization is when you start to get the education, when you start to be empowered, when you start to give your gifts to your community, right? That's when you self-actualize. But mental health was far above my needs, right? But the reality is we need y'all, right? We need y'all here. But unfortunately, because we don't have any of this, or know who provides any of this, we can't reach out for your services, right? So we're coming, you can go. Thank you so much for being, so who's doing what well? I wanted to highlight a couple different organizations, other than you guys, that are doing some really wonderful things with African American LGBT community. They've invited us into our spaces and really created a place for us to be empowered and to figure out our lives and to really find some very basic needs that are overlooked by some of the other organizations. If you click right here, it'll tell you some of the stuff that I really love about them. So y'all know about, I'm sure y'all know about the empowerment model, but I love the empowerment model, so I'm gonna talk about the empowerment model. The empowerment model, so it's based upon this thought that if you give people, if you step outside of whatever you're focused on, which their focus is HIV, right? And you give a specific community a place to come, a place to learn, a place to grow, and a place to be social, that them, through diffusion of innovation, they will start to change their habits, right? They will start to change the things that they do, right? And so focusing on HIV is saying that if we can give you a space to come, if we can throw free, engaging community events, right? If we can put you in places where you can grow like Hatch, things like that, that a lot of African American LGBT don't come to. If we can get you involved in that, then we can start to change your habits and change your risks, right? Another thing is, y'all spoke about this back there, which I'm so grateful for, is the staff is reflective of the community it serves. I know that's not always possible. I can't sit here and come down and say we need, black LGBT people being therapists, especially if the right applicants aren't applying with the right kind of degrees, right? I'm not about to sit here and do all of that, but I am going to say that if at all possible, where possible, for these communities that you're touching, that you want to outreach, it is important to, whenever possible, hire staff reflective of the community it serves. An incentive-based approach, and that's not money. That's not money. That's not money. But it's I know money is tight. I know we have line items. But I am saying they do for Splash, they just did for Houston Splash, which is the Black Gay Pride, prior to the Big Pride, right? And for the Black Gay Pride, M Society always buys between 200 and 400 Pride passes from that organization that sponsors Houston Splash. And you get tested, you get a pass. If you're already positive, you do a syphilis test, you get a pass. Not only do they do that, but during those times, they make sure that they're having these engaging events going all the way through, because Legacy becomes a sponsor for Splash. So now they're working with the community to build the program also, right? And then the drop-in center is very helpful. They have a space where people can come in, do work, do resumes. They have a space for small events. They have the counselors' rooms, and they're like peer educators, if you will. But they work for Legacy, and they do everything for Legacy in terms of referrals and linkage to care. They walk people over, and they talk about real stuff. They have this thing that I love called Men Chat Mondays. And Men Chat Mondays is a cute take on MCM, which is all about the social media craze. And MCM brings in, they talk about everything from anal health to trade. So I love it. You can click to the next one. LGBT fraternities. You have pictured here, Gamma Mu Phi. I'm a part of that one, so that's why that one's big. Theta Chi Psi, which is covered up. Thank you for
Sorry.
that. No, I'm playing. And Delta Phi Upsilon. You probably hear a lot about Delta Phi Upsilon. They're really big on education and scholarship in the community. We're more social and service organization. But what these fraternities do, and we meet here most times, but it fosters the brotherhood or sisterhood that we miss because of that familiar structure that we lose. So we get to re-engage that familiar structure through the brotherhood or sisterhood that the fraternity creates. It also gives us a networking ability that a lot of us would not have without that. For me, I am very grateful to be in this space, but I am non-degreed, coming from the street. I was picked up from hacks, literally picked up from hacks from prostitution. Hacks, I was prostituting and going to get tested at hacks, and Hacks was like, hey, you want to volunteer here? I said, absolutely, let me, what else am I doing with my life, right? And Hacks said, you know what, you have a story that needs to be told, and you have a connection to the community that we don't have. And Hacks was my starting point, and I was able to work and build my career off of working at Hacks. Interestingly enough, I started volunteering because of a guy named Nathan Maxey, who was a profile in our fraternity. So it's something that we could potentially never have, right? And educational opportunities. Delta Phi Upsilon does a scholarship every year for 4 or 5 African American LGBT people, and there's only a few specific to us. And I know we don't like to talk specifics and things like that, but like we don't have a lot of those opportunities. So we're very grateful for our LGBT fraternities. So coming to a close, it's 3:26. What exactly would I give you guys to do? I gave y'all all this information and all these different things. It's very simple. I pretty much went through all of them. Marketing. We have to see ourselves. We can't see ourselves in the building. We should see ourselves in the marketing. We can't see ourselves in the building. We should see ourselves in the marketing. Be intentional in outreach for services and make them culturally relevant. So I know y'all can't focus, like y'all have a huge community to take care of and do a really good job with it. But to engage us, you know, we are just looking at HIV and how HIV is just still running rampant in our community. But we don't have higher risks. We're not riskier than any other demographic. The issue is we have sex with the people in our community, right? And since our community viral load is so high, we contract HIV at higher rates. So in that same way, our social structures look just like that. Because we're marginalized on 2 different sides, right? We stay within our community. We go out on urban nights. I like that term, urban nights. We go out on urban nights, and we congregate in spaces with people that look like us, right? And I'm not saying when I go to them, I don't say that that's okay either. But I will say that that is true, right? And so in that way, we do need culturally relevant materials. And also, in intention for outreach, I'm very grateful. Montrose Center has given me space, has donated space to 2 or 3 of my events, and I'm very grateful for that. But also, United Way has done that for us too. And what I like about, in comparison, is they say, okay, yeah, we'll give you the space, but we need 5 minutes. Somebody is coming in there for 5 minutes, and we're gonna have a conversation about what we offer and what y'all need to be engaged in, right? So a lot of my colleagues, friends, and community, they know what Montrose Center is, but they know 106 and 107. They know 112 and 113, right? We know nothing about what you offer, right? And so I think it's important not only to have this outreach be intentional and offer us the space, but come into the space sometimes. That would be helpful for us. Collaborate with partnering agencies, organizations, and influencers. That kind of goes with that intention, but just being more visible. We see Montrose Center everywhere, like on different flyers and stuff. I would just say not a lot in spaces where we frequent. Social media outreach, we're all over social media. That's the cheapest way to do it. If you don't have a lot of personnel, a lot of time, don't want to spend a lot of money on marketing, that's the easiest way to do it. You can put some stuff together for social media, put it out, get these influencers that I'm talking about like me, and push the information out so that we can know what you have. And as I said before, if at all possible, when possible, make sure we're represented in staff, right? And so, the last thing I want to do is I just want to read the top 2 stanzas of this. I believe the work that you guys do is so wonderful. And this is one of the things I meditate on when doing the work that I do currently, seeing that a lot of times it's for free. So I have to really know deep inside that this is what I am here to do. This is what I feel connected to. You Are the Instrument by Dave Jameson. When all is said and done, you are the instrument. When the tools and techniques have run their course, you are still the conduit. When you engage with the system, half of the coupling is you. When you respond to what's going on, yourself is involved. When others respond to what you're doing, it's never just what, but how. While it's important to know theory and method, it's not enough. It's necessary, but not sufficient. What comes out through you, through your filters, through your self-esteem, through your fears, through your skills, through your needs, through your personal turmoil, through your presence. Such an important and difficult accountability we take on, to be well-owned, to be in shape, to practice the profession, to be the best we can be, to be reflection of what's out there without distortion, to be sensitive to adding value without having to be responsible for all, to be tolerant of such great variability. So I'm going to stop there. I love this. I hope you guys look this up. And so I won't run out of time. I want to open the floor. You can go to the next one. Up for questions, concerns. I'm sure y'all may have some. Any questions? Oh, I don't have any questions. Either they're really good or really bad, if there's no question. All right, well,
What are some of the places that I approvers would need to go to or be aware of to engage seniors for
That's really, really important. So they are really trying to find spaces for seniors to congregate, right? What I found is they are doing some stuff socially and card parties. So everything is social with seniors, right? Socially and card parties, right? So they have this place called, I can't think of the name, it's right on Alameda, but I'll definitely give you the name. They have a party every third Saturday, and it's for 45 plus African American LGBT people. And then they also have these card parties that different people host at their house.
Oh, these are cards.
Card.
I thought you were saying car.
No. Card parties. And they host them at their house because